All right, joining us now to react to all of today's big news, holding people accountable, deep state, people that abuse power, and the biggest corruption scandal we've seen. Texas Senator Ted Cruz is with us. Senator, between the media and people that we entrust with the powerful tools of intelligence, to see that they rigged an investigation with Hillary, they lied and committed fraud before FISA courts, purposely, we now know, because they were all warned about who paid for it. They omitted that, what Christopher Steele was all about, defeating Trump, and then bludgeoning the president, trying to undo a duly elected president the way they have. You're a constitutional scholar. You, I think, appreciate how severe this is for the country. How do we rectify this so it never happens again?
Well, let me say, first of all, this weekend was a very good weekend for the president, but even more fundamentally, it was a very good weekend for the country. We've had now 2 years of this special prosecutor investigation, and during the entire time, virtually every Democrat and all the media has been breathlessly covering every minute of it, insisting collusion, 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 collusion. Well, we now have the report from the special counsel. The special counsel concluded there was no evidence, zero evidence of collusion. That's a big deal. Not only that, but we also now know that both the Attorney General, Bill Barr, and the Deputy Attorney General, Rod Rosenstein, concluded that none of the evidence supports charges of obstruction of justice, which means everything the Democrats and media have been talking about for 2 years was lacking in a factual basis. And the entire media has egg on their face. And what are they doing now? They're not apologizing. They're not backtracking. They're not saying, gosh, our facts were wrong. Instead, they're attacking. We're seeing every Democrat pivot to say, oh, no, never mind about conclusion. Never mind about crimes or evidence. And mark my word, Sean, the House Democrats are going to impeach the president anyway, not because of any evidence, not because of any crimes, but because of the fact that he's Donald Trump and they hate Donald Trump. And it's showing just how extreme they are.
You know, you went up against a guy, Beto O'Rourke, as they call him. I have my own names for him. I won't drag you into my mess. But I got to tell you something. I've seen Benjamin Netanyahu as a Churchillian figure that
yes.
was alone, the sole voice of moral clarity against modern evil in our time until Donald Trump got into office. And I see that O'Rourke literally went after Netanyahu as an ally of racists. And we know that Reuters covered the real story of your opponent for over a year. They made a deal with Beto to hurt you in that election and help him. Well,
listen, when it comes to media bias, the Reuters stories is truly a smoking gun. Back in 2017, they had evidence that Beto may have committed multiple felonies. The reporter interviewed Beto on the record, and he confirmed it. But then they cut a deal and said, OK, we won't report on it until after the 2018 election. Why? Because they want the Democrat to win. They wanted Beto to beat me. Now that Beto's running against Bernie and against all the other leftists, now Reuters will report it. And it's the media is in bed with the far left wing of the Democratic Party. But I'll tell you, this also reveals, I mean, you're talking about Prime Minister Netanyahu, who I know well and consider a friend, and Churchillian is exactly the right adjective for him. One of the things this reveals, listen, Beto's trying to appeal to the extreme left in the Democratic Party, and one of the ways you do that is by launching anti-Israel attacks. I was at the AIPAC conference this week. Not a single Democratic presidential candidate came to the conference. And we saw just a couple of weeks ago the House of Representatives couldn't pass a simple bill condemning anti-Semitism. Well, I'll tell you, Sean, I've introduced a resolution in the Senate condemning anti-Semitism. I think we need to take it up, and I think we need to put every senator on record. I hope the Democrats are willing to condemn anti-Semitism, the kind of comments these freshman House members are making, things like it's all about the Benjamins, which is nothing but an anti-Semitic trope. I also have legislation to formally recognize as a matter of statute the Golan Heights as part of Israel. This weekend, the president announced that he's going to do that. I've been urging him and the administration to do that for months. That is a tremendous victory for Israel and America, but we need to take up and pass my legislation to put in federal law that the Golan Heights is part of the nation of Israel.
All right, Senator, That's unfair. And if you're part of the media and you cover up for, that's a campaign contribution in a major way. Needs to be investigated.
Is there any universe in which Reuters would cut that deal for a Republican?
No.
Can you imagine Reuters doing that?
Of course. Good to see you, Senator. Thank you. Here with reaction, media reporter for The Hill and radio talk show host on WOR, my affiliate great station in New York City, Joe Concha, and, of course, journalist, former 60 Minutes correspondent Lara Logan is with us. Thank you both. Lara, we'll begin with you. You know, look at that reaction is interesting. I think people get it. I think Democrats don't get it. We'll see more overreach, more investigations, and, of course, more socialism, which would destroy the country. Your reaction to all this?
Well, you know, my first reaction, Sean, is that as a journalist, I mean, speculation is not what I do, right? I prefer to focus on what I do know, and I'm always very conscious of what I don't know. And I want to give you, like, just a simple example in some of the coverage that I think demonstrates where the media is culpable. For example, do you remember what all the headlines and the media frenzy around President Trump supposedly leaking classified information to the Russians at a meeting in the White House, right? Except that no reporter actually appeared to look at what the law says about classified information and the President of the United States. Not just this president, but every single president. The Commander-in-Chief, under U.S. law, is the only single individual whose act of speaking about something is an act of declassification. So you talk to anyone in the intelligence community who knows the law, or anyone at all who knows the laws on classified information, they will tell you it's not possible for the president to leak. But that was used by the media and right across the spectrum. Every reputable newspaper and outlet in this country was, you know, hot and heavy on the president leaking classified information to the Russians as further evidence that he was somehow some kind of traitor and Russian agent. And to me, the most basic journalism, it only takes a couple minutes to look online and see what the law actually says about this and do some honest reporting. And I think for that, it's a dereliction of our duty as reporters.
All right, Joe Concha, you do this for a living. You analyze this. Do they ever recover? This has been 2 years of never-ending, nonstop lies and conspiracy theories. Frankly, they ought to be apologizing and embarrassed. That'll never happen.
Sean, I think we got a snapshot just based on ratings aren't everything, clearly. But last night, Monday night, the fact that you more than quadrupled your competition on CNN, Tucker Carlson as well, and right down the line, and the fact that you're getting more than 4 million viewers and CNN couldn't even break 915,000, I think maybe that may be a preview of things to come that they've been promising, not all, but many people on those networks, whether it be CNN or MSNBC, have been promising a certain outcome, or at least strongly hinting towards it, speculating about it, which does nothing for the eyes and minds, by the way, for 2 years.
Joe, wait a minute.
And then the payoff was supposed to come, and it did not.
This. What's the worst thing in life you can do? Overpromise and underdeliver. They have been assuring their audiences. It's imminent today.
And it was time. Right, and it was time to cash the check, and the check wasn't cashed, and now there's disappointment, and that's why maybe more people than usual were tuning out last night. But let's think about this for a second. In terms of Mueller, in terms of that investigation, the special counsel, they hardly, by all accounts, leaked anything. So think about it. The pushback I saw today was, well, we had to pursue the investigation. We had to pursue the facts. But around collusion, if the special counsel isn't leaking, therefore, this only leads to rampant, reckless speculation by people from sources that were providing information to them that was either bad or nefarious, and they wanted to believe what they were being fed. Because if there were no facts out there around collusion because of no leaking, that's the only thing that could have happened. Bad speculation that led to all this mistrust that we're going to be seeing moving forward.
They can't recover from my perspective. We'll see. Lara, hang on. Rudy Giuliani, hello. The attorney for the president is with us now. Longtime friend of mine, Mr. Mayor, good to see you. And I said this to Jay and you Sean, it's privately. A good night. I know you worked tirelessly. I know you guys didn't sleep, and well, it's true.
It's worth it. To defend an innocent man and see justice done is the ultimate goal of any lawyer. It was an honor for me to work on this case, and to see it turn out such a complete victory. I've never seen a declination letter, which is what this is, so powerful. Usually prosecutors just say, we're not going to go forward with the case.
That's it.
Mueller put in this thing about he didn't commit a crime, but I can't exonerate him. That is totally unprofessional. You're not supposed to say that. Then Barr and Rosenstein kind of knocked the obstruction thing right out of the park.
Well, Mueller did is hand it back to Rosenstein, and
well, because the guy got paid somewhere upwards of $30 million, but he couldn't make the key decision. His hands were shaking. He probably had, he had Jekyll and Hyde. He had the bad guys and the good guys. That little cheap shot probably got stuck in there somewhere along the way by Weissman, who tortured Manafort, who tried to get Corsi to perjure himself, who jammed up Flynn in a really pathetic false statement case.
I want him to pull back that plea.
How about if they don't prosecute Cohen? They got to pull back the plea. Cohen lied brazenly to Cummings. Cummings said he'd throw the book at him. The book hasn't been thrown yet. And I was just on Chris Cuomo's show and told him he'll be the first witness. Well, he's the guy on the other network. I told the other network.
There is no other network.
I told the other network they got to apologize.
Chris is a good guy. I'm kidding. Go ahead.
I said they got to apologize, and I told them you're the first witness because you got the tape that proves he's a perjurer. There were 13 witnesses to his perjury.
Well, there are a lot of tapes involved in this case, according to my sources. Mr. Mayor, if we don't get this right, this was an attempt to rig an election. This was an attempt to undo an election. If we don't get to the bottom of it, starting with Hillary, what happens?
Yeah. Well, this is even more than that. To me, as a lawyer and former prosecutor, this was a massive attempt to frame the President of the United States and to hijack the American electorate. This was an attempt to take out the President of the United States. And we don't have to go much further than the text of Peter Strzok. It was first an attempt to prevent him from becoming president, and then it was an insurance policy to take him out if he was the president. And I know Peter Strzok is involved. He has got to be prosecuted or has to be prosecuted for conflict of interest. His wife, who was working for the company that got $1 million, has to be prosecuted for conflict of interest. But here's the big question.
Real quick, we got to go.
This wasn't made up. Who came up with this story first?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We'll have you back.
I have a good idea, but I got to prove it first.